First of all, TIG. Yeah, Tigers are in the building. First of all, I want to thank you two for allowing me to be here today. It is an honor. I read the book. It's fun. It's enlightening. It's got some interesting conversations in there, to say the least. And the Tigers are state champions, folks. That is just amazing, right? Yeah. Coach Moore is here representing his state championship football team. And again, just appreciate all you guys coming out. We'll get to some questions here that I have, and we'll just dig into it a little bit and have some fun, okay? Well, I'll give it to Becca, and what I would like to do first is for both of you to give me a little idea of how you collaborated on this book together. I know you have your show together, and that's always fun. It's a goofy, it makes the town laugh. I love it. I love the interviews that you do with the players after every game. I think that's great. But writing a book is a little bit different, and I want to know how, when you sat down and came up with this idea, how did that process start? How did it work and just build from there?
Okay, well, actually, Scott and I first worked together on 15 for 15, which was by David Lee Morgan, and I wrote what it was like from the perspective of being a coach's wife during Massillon McKinley week, because I always say you think you know, but you don't know what that week is really like. And so when we started this season and we were talking about Tiger Talk, I said to Scott, this is the season, like this is it. And he was like, whatever, like don't talk to me. I'm not gonna go there one game at a time. And so when we got to the playoffs, we started talking about, it'd be when we win this thing. I would always say when we win. He would say if we win. I would say when we win. That we're going to write a book. And so actually the day after we won the state championship, we met here at Tremont and we started laying it out. But actually, he can tell you more, but actually what we had conceptualized as being the book is not how the book turned out. So that's what's pretty interesting.
I just want to say that Becca has told me that every year this is the year. So, I was right to be doubtful, and I've been around a long time when it comes to going to the Tigers, and I was actually just talking with someone out there when she said, are we going to win next year? And I said, I'm not that way. I can't go into it thinking we're going to win. You got to win the first game. That's what I want, and I can't think about it because it was too hard for me. How many out there dreamed of winning a state championship? Yeah. I mean, that's how it is in Massillon. That's all we ever wanted. So I can't believe it happened, and I still can't. But our idea for the book was basically to turn Tiger Talk into a book, because I said we had talked to all the players. Let's just put this all together, and we thought it'll be easy. We were going to have it be 100 pages and no big deal. And I said, we'll just knock it out. And then we met here afterwards, and I think even Nate came to that. How would he have come? He hadn't been to sleep yet. Because I remember I talked to JP for a while, and then we just started to lay out the season, and we knew it couldn't be that it shouldn't really be, we covered every game. You want to know what every game was like? Watch Tiger Talk. Instead, how did this happen? How did these people come together to make this happen? And that became the way.
So speaking of something a little bit different, this is for both of you, but a little more toward Scott, because I know, Becca, you had your snippet in the 15 for 15, but what is the difference between Massillon Against the World and 15 for 15? What is your major difference in writing this book and then doing that with Dave?
We won this time? So when we did 15 for 15, I was looking for someone to write it. I felt I was too close. I'm the worst person to go to a Massillon game with. I'm not fun like that guy you see on Tiger Talk. I'm not that way at a game. I'm a nervous wreck. My stomach hurts. This is me. This is how I watch a Massillon game. And Becca made fun of me the entire state championship game. And actually somebody, I don't know who it was, they brought me a picture of me during the last 4 minutes. I look like I'm going to be ill. I'm not fun. So I was like, I can't do it. But this time, because through Becca and Nate, I know that it's more than touchdowns. And that's what I wanted this to be. And, we kept having that flag, Massillon against the world. And I don't like the idea of Massillon against the world. But it is Massillon against the world. So I'm like, how can we explain this? It's complex, and if any of you have read chapter 10, so that was my deal to Becca and Nate. They both, we had other titles, but Nate especially he was like, no, it's Massillon against the world. That's the name of this book. And so I said, okay, but I have to write something, and it might be a little long. You have something to say, Becca?
No, that was a good question. It was a little long.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, you expected it, though. That's okay. For Ms. Becca, as a coach's wife, what allowed you to look at the town, the team, and the season as a writer?
That's a great question. As a writer, so I want to first give a shout out to my dad and mom, who are big supporters. And actually, my first college degree was in journalism. I wanted to be a sports writer. So my first job, my parents moved me to South Carolina, and I was a sports editor. And I just really fell in love with sports. And I covered baseball, which is funny. But I think just as the coach's wife in perspective, I wanted to be very raw and honest because, again, I'll say this a lot, is, people think they know, but they don't know. And my mom read the book, and she was like, I live with you, and I don't even see this. So I think people think they know, and somebody wrote in their review of the book, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. Because there's so much that we do behind the scenes, and there's so much that the coaches go through and so much time. So I wanted people to not only celebrate this win, but understand the sacrifices all the coaches and coaches' wives had to do in order to get to this point.
Now, as a media person, which I don't like to call myself that, but I am considered that, being on ESPN 990, and I guess all of us are to a certain level. You didn't attack the media, but you definitely made them stand up in the middle of the room and hold themselves accountable. When you're writing, because Nate has to interview with a lot of these people, a lot more than you guys have to, and writing that part of it and making them hold themselves accountable. Did you have to look at each other like, hey, don't write that? Okay, but yes, we should write that. Did you have to check each other as you were doing this process? And this is be for Scott, during that process, just so the way it came out was really professional, but still made them hold themselves accountable?
That's a great question.
I've been waiting for this question, so thank you so much. I will say that when I wrote this, I sent it to Becca, I sent it to Nate, and I told both of them it doesn't have to be in the book. You could really take chapter 10 out of the book, and the book would be fine. Nate said, don't change a word. Becca said, don't change a word. That's how supportive they are. As far as Nate having to face the press, I don't care about Nate. What do I care what he has to go through? He never cares if he doesn't answer my questions on Tiger Talk. But also, I've written things from my heart before. I would submit I didn't write that from my heart. I wrote that from facts. I don't say what I feel. I only quote those people's words. So if those people are upset with us, they should be upset with themselves. I don't say, they're quoted, it's footnoted. We had worse quotes that we couldn't find because they've been deleted. And I told Becca, we're not putting anything in that chapter that isn't footnoted. And it all I tell you the date it came out, where it is. So if those media people are upset, do better in 2024. If the fans of other schools are upset, then don't swear about our coach on TV that's broadcast across the state of Ohio. Do better, but also stand behind your words, because I stand behind everything I wrote, and it was very nice of Becca and Nate to stand behind and let me say what I've wanted to say as a Tiger fan my whole life. So, and thanks for the questions. Do you have anything, Becca?
No, you just said I brought out more trouble.
Yeah.
So we'll go here to Ms. Becca. And I was thinking about this because you talked about chapter 10 and, putting that in, you could have taken it out. Becca, if there was one more chapter to add to this book, what would you name it?
That's a great question. I don't know that I would add another chapter to this book because I love that at the beginning Scott gets to do Massillon from the outside. I do Massillon from the inside on chapter 2. But chapter 10 for the city or chapter 14, yes, chapter 14 for the city was just amazing. And I don't know that you could add another chapter anywhere in the book because I felt like we talked to Nate, Scott and I spent a lot of time together in 6 weeks just discussing, because we didn't want to go overboard, but we wanted to make sure we hit everything that was important, like the adversity, the OHSAA, the games, playing Valdosta, the game that everybody had waited for. So I don't think that you could add another. If you added another chapter, then maybe it would be too long.
The thing that's not in the book that I wish was in the book was that Cincinnati Anderson never punted. I'll never get over that my whole life. I'm telling you, 4 or 5 years from now, I'm going to say, remember that game when they didn't punt, right? Were you there? So that's what I would. I mean, I'm going to follow Cincinnati Anderson next year just to see if they punt. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
So we found out, Scott, that you were still nervous about this year and us winning it all, clearly. So this would be for both of you. Was there a moment during writing this book and as you're writing or during the season at all, a game, a conversation with a coach, a play made by a player where you guys looked at each other in the stands or right before Tiger Talk that you said we can win it all?
I think as a coach's wife, Nate has really trained me to live week by week. And because that's what we drill into the players, we don't look ahead, we don't look back. It's just week by week. So when we went into, obviously, week 16, that's when I was like, we're going to win it all. I don't know how, I didn't think it was going to be as dramatic as it was. And, I know Nate loves to make sure you guys are awake in the stands and make sure you're still there. So hope you enjoyed that. But yeah, I think for me, and because we have players over to our house and we're always dealing with the players, you have to drill that in your head, because if you look ahead, then it breaks what he's trying to get the buy-in to our kids, and they definitely are bought into that process now, so I would not want to break that.
That's such an interesting question. I'm trying to think, was there a moment? I mean, I don't think I felt this, but I think looking back, I think it's the Valdosta game, because we did fall down 14-0 many times in the previous years. It was kind of like a theme. In a big game, we're going to give them 14 points. But in that game, there was something different about the team. They didn't crumble. And then we crushed them the rest of the time. And so I think that's when the character of the team really started, but I didn't think it that. There was no part of me that was like, we're going to go 16-0. I just didn't think that. But looking back, I actually think, and that's the only time we were down all season. That's crazy. We went 15 weeks never being down. Am I lying about that? He doesn't know they keep score in a football game, so he's not been told that. But
This morning we were down 7-0 early in the
okay. All right. Okay, so I was wrong. We're editing that out.
So one thing I did love about the book, and I found very fun and entertaining because I have a personal relationship with every single coach on the coaching staff, what are interviews. And I know the personalities of a lot of those guys, starting with the head guy and how he is with a mic in his face and wanting to talk to media and giving them all answers that they want to have, and he doesn't want to give it to them. And then you get to interview a guy like Danny Studer, Coach McGuire, Hackenbrack. So I got two questions, for both of you guys. The first one is, who was the most interesting coach? Who gave you the best sound bites as far as interviewing them? Maybe some things that you didn't even put in the book because, we got some pretty interesting guys there on that staff.
Well, I will have to say Travis McGuire was probably, between him and Hackenbrack, it might be a tie because there's no filter. So I've always tried to get Coach Moore to do the mic up at a game with Coach Hack, but he just won't allow that to happen. But he's really funny. But really, Coach McGuire, and if you haven't read the Massillon McKinley chapter, probably my favorite quote in the book was when he talks about Massillon McKinley, and we just ask about the rivalry. He played here, people call him the GOAT, and he said they could offer me $1 million, they could buy me a new car, a house, they could offer me the key to the city, or they could tell me, if I don't take this job, I'm gonna die. And he said, well, I guess I'll die. So he is phenomenal with our kids. So really, all the coaches watch. They all got emotional a little bit, I think, just telling the story. So if you ever doubt that the coaches care about the kids and anything, maybe go write a book yourself and interview the coaches because they absolutely were phenomenal. But Coach McGuire's sound bites were probably the most hysterical.
Definitely Hack and Travis cracked us up the most. Yeah. I mean, I just couldn't believe the things they said. But in some ways, for me, it was Mazer, who was our first interview, right? Yeah. Wasn't Mazer first? One of our first, yeah. And that was I'm sure Becca knew this already because she's lived that life, but that was when I got behind the curtain at how hard they work. I knew they worked hard, but I didn't know it's 11 months. I didn't know that when the game is over, they're taking the footage back to break it up so the kids have it by Saturday morning. I didn't know that they film practice and they have it the next day. And you just started to see, that's why our book changed. And, nobody's really pointed this out, but we didn't interview the players. There's no quotes from players at all, which we were going to do. But then I realized, nothing against the players, but this book is about work. And that is what Massillon is about, I think, as a town. And you should be able to get that. And these people work hard. We're not coasting to win. We're not winning by accident. And that really got me, and I feel like I got that in the Mazer interview.
Perfect. For both of you, how do we feel about the OHSAA? It was in the book. It wasn't really hidden too much. You don't have to get too in depth. I don't know if anybody's listening here from the OHSAA. Everybody check and see if everybody has Massillon on and we recognize them from either McDonald's, Tremont Coffee, or riding down Lincoln Way. If it's a face that's not familiar, we will not answer this question.
I think I would answer that question anyway. As you guys know, we have probably a love-hate relationship with OHSAA. I love the tournaments that they put on. I do love what they do for sports. I love that they're reevaluating and they're opening up more divisions for girls basketball. They look at girls sports. I can't say enough about what they do for that. I do, struggle, especially since we took Thayer in and, we were the front page of the paper for 3 days. And, I struggle with sometimes if a kid chooses to move or if their parent chooses to send them to indie school, whether it's Massillon, McKinley, St. John's, St. X, I don't care. That's your choice. That's your choice, okay? That's where you think it's best for your kid. So I feel like there shouldn't be penalties for anybody or investigations on anybody because it's your life. It's not their life. And sometimes I think as adults, and I can say this because, I've raised 4 kids and feel like I'm raising more sometimes on the football team, that we have to let them make decisions for themselves. At some point, if they feel like they're going to get better somewhere else, then that's, and you lived through that, so because you came to Massillon. So I think that if you read that chapter, I feel like Massillon with Superintendent Salvino and Dave Lautenschlager, we go above and beyond what Ohio High School Athletic Association asks of us. And so I feel like they should maybe read the book and understand that we're always trying to get better here so that the outside noise that people think they say or that they hear this or hear that, it's not true. I think we go above and beyond, and you'll read that in that chapter. So if somebody ever asks you about it, I think you should hand them the book and tell them to read that chapter.
I think you should tell them to buy the book. Don't hand them yours. I learned probably the most about that. Nate did a really good thing for us, and he read the book as we wrote it and fact-checked, mostly me. And he kept telling me that's not true. And so a lot of things that I thought aren't true. A lot of things that we all think about the OHSAA are not true. So I think we're sort of wrong about that, and we didn't put that stuff in the book. So I'm sort of more annoyed at the media. I think they're not educating. I learned that Hoban really is following a lot of the same rules as us, that it isn't that different. So I'm not sure it's all OHSAA's fault, but they sure could be nicer. And I have a question for you. I keep forgetting I want to flip it on you, because I was thinking about this. When you played, we went 10-0, and we all felt like, oh, we're going to win state championship. This is it. And we came up short. How is it for you to see, you were Cody Fair, you were Dorian Pringle. They did it. Tell us what it's like as a former player to see these players achieve the goal that you wanted to have.
That's a good question.
That's a really good question. I have always been big on celebrating others. Even when I played, I would make a sack. If my teammate got a sack, I made more noise and probably was going to get a penalty celebrating him more than I celebrated my own sack. And that's how I felt with the success of this team this year. If I'd have won it in 1999, I probably would have been more excited for this team winning it in 2023 because of the way they did it. With the adversity, with things just swirling around them every single week, from multiple things, from the off-season controversy to the in-season controversy, and the way they just stuck together and how hard they fought together to do it. And then the relationship I have with that coaching staff, from the Danny Stewart, who is like my brother, Jason Jarvis is like my brother, Travis, of course, is like a big brother, and then Nate over these years is the family. Becca, you guys know that. And just to see the success and the hard work, like you said, that these coaches put in. We don't get to see the machine. We just get to see the performance. And once you see the machine and respect the machine, and the admiration, the love, it's just proud to be a Tiger. Just proud to be a Tiger. That's it. Thanks for getting me there, Scott. I appreciate that, brother. It got me a little emotional. I appreciate it. So, Scott, this is for you. At the beginning of the book, it's I don't want to say a typical Massillon story because I don't want to take away from it the conversation about your father and your son. Those are deep Massillon conversations, right? A lot of us in this room have had that relationship with a grandparent, an uncle, a father, a brother who we went to the football games with, we ran up on the hill and played ball with, and then all of a sudden we're passing that tradition on to someone else. And and I believe I know the answer to this, but if there was an interview you could have done for this book, winning that state championship, who would have it been with?
I mean, it would be great to talk to my dad about it. It's been hard for this. Someone just asked me, for those of you who don't know, like I went with my mom and dad and my brother. The four of us went, and then my mom, there was a fight at a Massillon-McKinley game, and she never went again. And then my brother dropped out when he graduated high school, so it was just me and my dad, and then my son was born, and then it was us, and and then it became just me and my son, and then my new family. Like, you just go. Like, the people that have sat next to me in Section 14, that's my whole life. So someone just asked me, like, what would your dad think of a night like that you just had in Massillon? And I'm like, he wouldn't think anything, because this is inconceivable. Like, it's not possible that I'm getting to write about the Tigers. Like, that's crazy to me. And it's all because of Becca for letting me in and trusting me, and I'm so thankful to it. Like, it means the world to me. Like, it's crazy. I get to do a lot of good things in my job, but like I've talked to celebrities and gone places, but like meeting Cody Fair, that's awesome. Like, what? I saw him at First Watch this morning, and he knew me. Like, what? So it's crazy. But I mean, it would be fun if my dad was here, but also it'd be like he would also be surprised about the whole phone thing. Like, why are people taking pictures with the phone?
Good. Ms. Becca, this is for you. You, of course, coach of Mr. Nate Moore, very successful man over there, great coach, great husband, great friend. You've got to celebrate a championship with him before coming to Massillon. I just want to know, was there a difference in this championship and then the championship in LaSalle? What was the difference to you? If there was a difference, there may not have been one, but if there was, what was it?
That is a fabulous question. So actually, when we were in line signing books at the museum on Friday, a guy actually asked me something similar. And he said, did you get as emotional when you won at LaSalle as you did at Massillon? And I said, no, no. And I said, winning at LaSalle, like, it was like kind of a shock, like, because LaSalle had never won before. They'd never won a playoff game, so we won a playoff game, and then we go and win a state championship. And in the book I remember walking across the field and saying to the athletic director, good luck keeping him, because they're gonna come looking for him. And but it was a joke, and Ella was like 3 years old, I think. Like, she was very little. So like, it was kind of like winning there was kind of cute, because Ella sat on his lap, and Eli was crawling under all these huge players, to get in the picture. But here was different, because here, when Nate took this job, and you can read in chapter 2, it was a lot harder for us than what we've probably made it seem to you guys. It was more about, we had 2 goals when we came here: beat McKinley and win the state championship. That was our goals. And Nate, 2 things. Well, the first year, what did we do? We lost to McKinley, and we didn't make the playoffs. And I'm like, we're going to get fired. So that it was so different, because now our kids have grown up here. Eli plays for the Massillon Tigers. He was a sophomore this year. So it's different as a coach's wife. I stopped sitting in the stands, so I was on the sidelines. I think I'm definitely more involved in Massillon than I was at LaSalle. So it was different, because it meant more, and it will always mean more here. So winning here, and this is nothing against LaSalle, was like winning the first championship, because the experience and the thank yous, it meant so much more, because it means so much more for the city, and it meant so much more for us, because we're so grounded in the city, and because my parents live here now, and so they got to experience it with us. So this win, whether we win again or we win again in 5 years, or this win will mean more to me and probably Nate, I can't answer for him, than anything ever will.
Thank you. Yes. Great answer. Thank you. Scott, I'll come back to you, sir. So we know the Tigers are state championships, right? Everybody clap for that, right? We get that. Yeah. So, in life, there are events, right? There are things that happen. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure I'm here. I'm going to make sure I go this direction. I'm going to make sure it's done like that. But things pop up, and they don't happen to go that way, right? Was there, during this process, was there somebody or some events, a game, a moment that you felt like you guys didn't get to capture because something got in the way? It could have been an interview with the coach. It could have been, you said you took the players out of it. Now you recognize that you didn't need to have them in there. But was there something during the process of writing this and coming together and during the interviews and covering the games, was there something there where you're like, man, if we just took this step, this would have been in here and completed it maybe a little bit more?
I mean, I think for that, I really did want to interview someone from the OHSAA, and we did talk about it a couple times because I don't know that we're hard on them. Again, we're just telling the truth, and if the truth is hard, then do better. But also, it would have been interesting to understand a little bit more, like, what was your idea, and for me, I like to handle those things with comedy because I think you can tear down someone big by comedy more than anything else. So, that's why we did the Tiger Talk skit where I'm banned from YouTube for a week. I don't know if you've seen it, but I was trying to show how ridiculous it is that you would be asked to sit out of something before the investigation. And so I would have liked I think the book would be a little bit more journalistic, I suppose, if we could have them comment on it, but I don't know. We had done, they would have said no, I'm sure, but also we were just going as fast as we can, and I mean, we really did this book like crazy quick. It's not how it works. I kept telling Becca that this is not how a book works. I mean, usually it takes a year, and we did it in 6 weeks. But we had to because we had to capture everyone's imagination right away.
So we'll put a question out there for one of the lovely fans out there. Take a couple questions from you to see if anybody has a question for these two great individuals up here. Don't be shy. Anything? Nothing? That's okay. Here we go.
All right, this is a good one, which kind of surprised me when I read. One point in time, you went into Nate's office. He said, "I've never been so unhappy in my life." And he says, "Yeah, I know." When did that change? I'm hoping it has changed, but when did it start changing for you?
So if you didn't hear, he's read the book and he asked, at one point I go in to a room and Nate's sitting there and I'm telling him that I'm unhappy, and Nate says he's unhappy too. So a little background is we were basically homeless for we couldn't find a place to live, and Nate really wanted to live in Massillon, and I was being probably a little bit picky because it was a hard move for us. Like, we moved away from our family. And I don't know if you know, but people did not like me when I moved here. Like, it was very well known I was not liked because they thought I just got a job because of Nate, which is true. We were a package deal. But I felt like I was a hard worker and I felt like I was up for the task. So really what happened is, as you read in the book, is basically the conversation Nate and I had. I had married Nate. We knew this was going to be hard, and we were just going to have to stick together, and I was going to have to trust him. And so that's what I did, and then we won a state championship. So
Just like that.
I'm happy now.
Anyone else?
This isn't a question, but when you guys were in the first parade and we saw you and Coach, kudos to you. We knew you were a tough cookie walking in those stilettos.
That is a staple for Miss Becca Moore there. Anyone else?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Coach Moore and Becca writing the book. But Coach Moore and Becca, thank you for investing in our community. Thank you for doing the many things that go unnoticed for the team. And Becca, I see so much that you do for athletics, and I work for a company that for those with disabilities, and I commend you and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had a question. I was thinking about this a little bit earlier and I kind of forgot, but I was just kind of curious. To what extent would you say, or how would you say, that your faith has played into the experience of you and Nate, what you've been doing as a team?
So how is my faith built into this experience? I think my grandma Combs really drove that home with me. She was always giving back and with nothing in return, and Nate probably would tell you that I probably would give away our last penny. So I think here in Massillon, it's just been trusting and what we went through with Thayer and what we went through with TK. I don't know if you remember TK Keys when we beat Hoban the first time, what we went through with him, and just with DeJuan and stuff. It's just trusting the process. What we went through at the beginning of the season, when Nate was put on an administrative leave, you have to really, time is sometimes your enemy. You have to wait and pray and have faith. And I think also my parents, they live with us and they're always very patient. I'm their wild child, I would say, compared to them, because they're definitely more patient than I am. So I think that faith always plays a part of that, and giving back. So I think when you give back, things come into circle. So I would say basically because of my parents, that has played a part in everything.
And this means a lot to me, Ellery, you doing this, it's so fun that I watched you play. And then now we're sitting together. I like it.
Yeah.
And thanks, Becca, for doing this book with me. You were great.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. You made this so much more fun. I do want to say, when we won the state championship, and I was sitting back, watching Nate go through the line, because of course I wanted Studer and Coach, Salvino is not a coach anymore, but Superintendent Salvino, I wanted him to enjoy the time with his guys, but I did run and point at Scott and yell, "I told you so. I told you so."
One more thing. I just want to say, is this not the coolest thing you've ever seen? One of our, Carson here, made this. It's got Dorian. Ian, you got to take a look at this thing. He's going to sell it for $10,000. It's going to help his college career. So thanks for coming out, and we appreciate all the support.
You forgot, until next time, Scott. TIG.
ERS.
I would never.